This is going to be another AD&D Toolkit tutorial video. Putting out a lot of these, trying to help people new to Toolkit get a grasp on it. If we can speed up that learning curve, make things easier for them, that'll make me happy. Today I want to talk about illusions, particularly illusion spells. So I'm going to go to my campaign manager. This is a testing campaign that I have with a bunch of characters in it. And illusions, here's the module for illusions. So this illusion module most specifically addresses phantasmal force and improved phantasmal force, but it does pertain to illusions in general. And illusions are a great feature, in my opinion, in first edition. I'm not really familiar with 3, 4, and 5 and so forth. But the illusionist was a great subclass of the magic user. And some argue they can be even more powerful. The spells are quite different, though there is, of course, some overlap. They are of the same major class. But illusions like Phantasmal Force, there is a tremendous amount of subjectivity to them, and there's so many variables and so much creativity that goes into it. You almost can't get, or maybe not even almost, but you just can't get around that subjectiveness, where ultimately the DM is just the arbiter of, does an illusion work or not? Is it successful in tricking the target of the spell? And this can have huge consequences, particularly when you take into account the fact that illusion spells like Phantasmal Force, they can inflict, even though it's an illusion, it can inflict physical damage on the recipient, on the target. So as a DM, we have to be really careful in how we adjudicate these illusions and their effects. There's not a lot of hard rules written on this. Some of it has been covered subsequently to the DMG in Dragon Magazine and interviews with guys like Gygax and Menser. So what I did is I spoke to a lot of DMs that I value, each of them 30, 40 years of experience. I've read Dragon Magazine. I had some of these DMs with a lot more experience than me direct me to particular articles. I even got a little bit of input from Menser in one of my community groups I belong to on how some of those early OGs viewed illusions and how we should handle them. And then I put together this module. So this module, more than any other within Toolkit, I guess you would say, is the most homebrewed, because again, there is not really a system in place for this in the DMG. So I wanted to have one that I put into the toolkit and tried to make it as universal as I could. So there's two reasons for this. One is it can speed up how we handle illusions like Phantasmal Force. And two, it provides a constant, a universality to how they're handled, so that my players, your players, when you use Toolkit, they know what to expect from you as the DM. Actually, when I've had any characters ever want to, or any players want to play an illusionist character, I don't think I've ever had one that didn't ask me up front, how do you handle Phantasmal Force? Before I decide to play an illusionist, they want to know how I handle it. And so having a standardized approach to it makes things easier for both the player and the DM, that we know what's to be expected and how they're going to be adjudicated. So I'm going to go through these parameters one by one so that you can see how this works. So the first thing is, how many targets are going to be affected, or at least attempted to be affected by this illusion? And that's simply, if my party comes across a group of 10 kobolds, then I'm going to select 10 for the number of targets. If it's 10 kobolds and 2 dragons, which isn't very likely to happen, but I wouldn't have 12 here then, because I'm going to handle the dragons differently than I am the kobolds. So these have to be like creatures. And now that I just said that, I think I'm going to put a little tooltip. These little tooltips I have, I'm going to put one up there to indicate that. Have to be like targets. So we have 10 kobolds. Then the viewer intelligence. I honestly don't know. I'm going to guess that kobolds are of low intelligence. So I'm going to pick like 7 here. But you can find that listed in the monster manual. And you'll want to know what that is. Because the more intelligent the creature is, the better the chances they're going to recognize the illusion as an illusion and not think it real. The viewer save versus spells. So these kobolds, I don't know what their saving throws are, but I'm going to say they need 17. Or 17 is their threshold, so they need above that to have a successful save if they figure this out to be an illusion. And actually, I think that's something that I'm going to do here quickly too. I'm going to go to my blog. And on the blog, there's a campaign manager category. And I discuss a lot of the modules. Eventually, it'll be all of them and how they work. And I believe I have one for illusions here, module illusions. So you'll see this article details how they work. And the first thing that we need to establish is, does the recipient or the target of this illusion believe it to be real, or do they detect it to be an illusion? And if they do detect it, then they're going to do a saving throw to see if they can save against it. So detecting it really is more having doubt. It's not conclusive that it's an illusion, but they're doubting it. And that's why you're doing that saving throw to see if, for instance, if my illusion is a magic missile that I'm casting, do they detect it as an illusion? If they do, then they get a chance to save against it. And if they have a successful save, they're not damaged by that magic missile. But if they don't save, then they are damaged by it. So we have saving throw required there for the recipient. Known spellcaster. So does the target, these kobolds, have they seen this illusionist cast spells before, whether in this combat or another one? So do they know they're a spellcaster? Because if they do, then there's going to be a better chance of them, their spidey senses are going to be tingling, and they're going to know there's a good chance this is another illusion they're seeing here. Are there crucial senses missing? And if there are, how many of them? So let's say another spell, a fireball. So I have my illusionist casting phantasmal force, and the illusion they're casting is a fireball being chucked at this group of kobolds. So if it's not improved phantasmal force, if it's the basic one, then there's only a visual component, I believe. And so the kobolds would see the fireball approaching them, looking just like a fireball spell, going to scare the crap out of them. But as it approaches, they're not going to feel heat. It's just visual phantasmal force. So they're not going to feel the heat. That's one sense that is missing. When the fireball strikes, there should be a concussive blow. They should feel that. They should feel the explosiveness of it hitting them. That's going to be missing too. So there would be 2 senses missing. Sound. I would imagine when a fireball comes rushing in, that giant orb of heat, you're going to hear it. So there would be 3 senses that are missing from this phantasmal force. The more senses that are missing, the greater the chance of detecting this as an illusion. Friendly warnings. So let's say this is not the first illusion this illusionist has cast within this combat. And in earlier illusions, some of those kobolds recognize them as illusions. So they have a good chance of detecting this one, and they're going to yell out to their compadres there, hey, this is an illusion. It's not a real fireball. Don't get worked up about it. That's going to give all of the other kobolds a better chance of detection. The caster class. So going back to this article, there is an image quality that is calculated. The image quality has a few attributes that detect how good the quality is of this illusion. One of them would be Is it an illusionist casting a spell, or is it a mage, or is it a thief that's using a scroll? If you remember, thieves in 1E can use, I think it was like a 25% chance of success, magic scrolls. A thief casting a phantasmal force from a scroll is not going to be effective, not going to have as good quality to their illusion as a true illusionist would. And so that will make a difference. The class of the caster level. Again, the higher the level of the caster, or 10th level illusionist will have much better image quality than a low level. Caster intelligence, again, will improve that quality. Sudden appearance of the illusion. So let's say that my party is out in an open field and suddenly a red dragon appears above their heads, and that's a phantasmal force. It's unlikely that a red dragon would just appear there, so that would be a sudden appearance, and that's going to increase the chances these kobolds figure things out. Is the illusion improbable? That red dragon has 3 heads to it. Red dragons don't have 3 heads, so it's improbable to see that in the sky above you. So I would check yes for that. And a stationary object. Stationary objects are easier for the illusionist to pass off as being real. And what that would be is, let's say my illusionist wants to hide his party. So there's an open archway in front of them between the kobolds and the party, and the illusionist wants to put up a section of wall where the archway is, so that it seems like one solid piece of wall, and that would hide, for our intents and purposes, the party behind it. That's more likely to fool the kobolds because there's less moving parts, literally. There's not moving parts. It's a stationary object, this phantasm. So that's an increased chance of succeeding. So that's what all these parameters are. And then I would just click my submit button. And then it's going to give me the results in our results window like every other module does. The illusion quality is a 19 out of 20. Total targets were 10. None of them detected it because the image quality was so good and all the other factors. And so no successful saving throws means everybody's affected. And if this was a red dragon above them that was breathing fire, all the kobolds are going to take damage from that. So that is how this illusion module works. I hope that you find it useful. I hope you find this video helpful. And that'll be it for today. I'll see you at the next one.